Welcome and happy 11/11. It's the 11th of November as I'm filming this. And it's also the second video that I filmed in one day. So I'm on a roll. But for this one is special because this one I'm feeling connected. I'm feeling in tune. I'm feeling like there's a message that needs to come through that is not necessarily from me, but it's from like the ancestors. You know, they're like, "Hey, let's deliver a message." So here I am, a channel. And yeah, well, it's November, so we're in Scorpio season. I'm not huge on astrology, so don't come for any sort of astrology advice. But the thing that I do know is that from the day of Halloween through the Day of the Dead, which is the day after, normally the history of that all is because, well, let me rewind. There's a lot of history that goes into Halloween, but what I want to say is that the veil is very thin in between the physical and the spiritual world, traditionally. However, this year is very different. That veil is staying very thin all throughout the month of November, and let me tell you that I have been feeling it. I just randomly this month have been thinking about like my ancestors. And when I say ancestors, I'm like my grandparents, all my grandparents have passed at this stage in my life. Also like, other relatives or other people that I know that have passed, they've just been passing through my mind. And like, for example, I was in the grocery store the other day and I saw these mini little like bedazzled bottles of Prosecco. And my grandma, well, my maternal grandma, I used to call her Mimi, she would have been all up in that. Those tiny little bottles, don't get her a big bottle. She wants the tiny little bottle of Prosecco. Oh, and a little bit of bejewel, a little bit of bedazzle. She's all over that. So I felt that. I said, Mimi would have loved it. I took a picture. I sent it to my mom and she agreed. But normally, I don't have these sorts of thoughts. And that's not the only. That's just a fun little example I wanted to share with you. But there's kind of a deeper message that has been coming through this month. And if you don't know, I work with an elderly woman who is in this very precious phase of life where she's pondering her will to live. It's a very interesting environment to be in. And so I've learned a lot about life, living, and also death and how death is a process. And so I am opening up this conversation because I feel like I'm just talking. I feel like this is like a talking diary. But also, I'm curious, like if anyone else has any sort of input with their experience with death, or whatever it may be. And I am going to preface this in saying that I generally do have a fear of death. I wonder if like other people can relate to that. Like even like talking about it sometimes makes me a little like fearful. But I do feel that this message is coming through strong and I want to share it. So recently, I was thinking about my grandparents and how they all passed. And I found it very, very interesting how almost all four of them had their steady decline, got to a point where they were either they were no longer talking, they were very lucid, like in that very transition phase between life and death. And all it took was seeing like a certain person. For example, for my paternal grandmother, she needed to see her kids, she needed to see her childhood best friend, and she needed to see her dog, Barney. And she let go. Within 20 minutes of seeing her dog, we snuck her dog into the hospital and she let go. And the same thing happened. Anyway, I'm going to spare you all the details. But the thing is, I realized that, at least in my experience with my grandparents, they all waited for one person or one thing to feel that they could let go. And so then I'm like, okay, it's not the cancer then. It can't be that it's the cancer, because if it was the cancer that took us out like of this world, or the sickness, or whatever you've got, you know, the whatever it is that is deteriorating you, if it was that one thing, then wouldn't every single person with cancer die? Like once it got to a certain point? But who are we to judge, like at what point, and how can we measure the what's the word? The fastness, the speed of which like the cancer attacks us versus other people. And why are there child cancer survivors, but also like older adults that like were diagnosed and then somehow got over it? These are all questions that live in my mind. And then I expanded my database to other people that I know that have passed, and I know younger people that have passed. And it just so happens that one of the people that has passed was actually younger than me. So I think he was 22 years old. And hold on, we're gonna go a different way, because I don't have his permission to share that. Thank you. So what I want to say is that what I've been feeling in this message that I feel like has come through, at least from my ancestors, is that death is a process. And ultimately, it's us that decide when we want to let go. And that's very, very special. At least it strikes me to hear that and to have this realization. And I'm not saying that this is truth. I'm not claiming this to be like verified, but this is what I feel, this realization that I've come through to. And I'm curious like of what other people, their realizations, but this is what I genuinely am feeling on my heart, that death is truly this process, and it's a sacred rite of passage. We all are going to go through it. We all are just visitors here. You know how special it is to be there, to guide others through this process, and to really have this understanding of like how fragile our life is. And you know the saying how those who shine the brightest have gone through the darkest of dark. And I feel that really deeply with kind of what I'm feeling with death this past month, that I feel like understanding this beautiful process that death holds for us allows you to truly live your life to the fullest. And another part to this kind of conversation that is really relevant in my life right now is that I'm just I get these words mixed up. I'm generally someone who has like picks up on fear. So if someone's afraid around me, I'm going to be afraid. When I'm alone, I don't really like have that much fear, but if there are a few fearful people around me, or if there's like a fearful thought, like for example, if I'm to watch the news, I'm going to be scared, because I'm just very susceptible to like people putting ideas into my head, and then for some reason I just like accept them as my own, even though it's not me. Anyway, that's another story. So I've been feeling a lot of fear recently. Fear about the future, fear about making a wrong move, taking a wrong turn, or advancing, fear about creating a life for myself, fear about moving on and like growing up. And it sounds so silly to say it out loud, but it's true. And like I wonder if there's anyone else who goes through that. And I feel like my ancestors, like I've been trying to connect with them this month because the veil is so thin, and I I didn't have the greatest relationship with all of them while they were living, but I can have a good relationship with them as they've crossed over, because they are entities and beings that had their passage here on earth, so they know much more than I could ever know. And so what they're telling me is like, don't have fear. Don't have fear. And just live. It sounds so simple. Just live. Just do it. Just like even make the mistakes, or just go ahead and like don't have fear. It's such a waste of energy, to be completely honest. Go forth. Like, be strong. Be confident in who you are. There's no reason to fear. And you deserve to live your life to its fullest. You truly deserve, like, if you have the capacity to feel immense amounts of pleasure just by sitting in your backyard, looking at the freaking evening sun shine its golden rays through the leaves and like caress the tree trunks and like come across the get your mind out of the gutter, make its way across the grass, and you're just sitting there and you're just like, oh my God, this is just the most beautiful thing ever. And I'm just so lucky and so grateful to like have eyes to see this natural beauty and to live in this beautiful place. And I'm just so lucky and grateful. Like, instead of feeling like, you know, weird, or like that you're too much, or feeling that you're like, whoa, I'm too sensitive, like people are gonna think I'm tripping, or it's not, just feel it. Like, you have this fucking ability to feel so deeply. That is so beautiful. Not everyone has that. And in this lifetime, in this dimension, in this reality, you have cultivated that practice. And all your past lives led up to this point. And your ancestors, everything that they lived through has allowed you to be where you are right now. So just own it. Like, just own it and just be who you are without apology. And so, yeah, like understanding death, or just like having, like pondering death and like being close to it and surrendering to it, in the sense where you're like, I know that you are a great teacher, and although there might be fear, I should not fear. I have not fear, because it is something that we all will experience. And understanding that allows you to live the life of your dreams. Yep, that's all. Is that all? Oh yeah. And say I love you to your ancestors, because they deserve some love too.